can I have both a SIPP and a SAS? The short answer to this is yes, you can have both. There are actually no restrictions in the UK on the number of pensions that any one individual can hold. The issue probably that's more pertinent is where obviously are you going to make your contributions and what is the total value of your pensions. Whilst there is no limit to the amount of money that you can hold in pensions, but there is a limit to tax-free cash. So actually having all of your pensions in one does make the long-term management of pensions much easier if they're just held in one. However, it's also probably worth providing you with some distinction between SIPP and SAS and how they operate. SIPP is regulated by the FCA. It is an individual contract. There can only be you as the member of the SIPP and nobody else. Generally these days only buys what we would call regulated investments, so stocks and shares, ETFs, unit trusts and that sort of thing. So it is generally fairly restrictive in terms of what it can do. SIPPs can of course buy commercial property, but you do need to be very careful when you're looking at the SIPP because not all SIPP managers will allow you to buy commercial property, and there are also some SIPP managers who will not allow you to borrow money inside SIPP. It has unfortunately become quite a restrictive product. In the early 2000s, when it really came into its own, SIPP was actually a very good product because it was allowed to flourish and do what it was supposed to do. However, in the last 10 years, mostly through regulatory action, SIPP has become very restrictive, unfortunately. It's ideal if you don't have a limited company with which to set up a SAS, then potentially SIPP might be your next best option if you want that sort of wider range of funds to pick from the market, because in theory, SIPP should be able to access all of the regulated funds that are available, both at home and abroad. So it does have a broad base of investments. The other thing that SIPP can't do, which SAS can do, SIPP is not allowed to do loans back to the sponsoring employer. A lot of people do like taking out SAS because once obviously they will have a company that has set the SAS up. They like the thought that the SAS can potentially lend money back to the sponsoring employer if those funds are required to help develop the business. We do have separate videos on loans back to the sponsoring employer if that's of particular interest to you. One of the other big advantages that we find with SAS over SIPP, SAS is a different vehicle in terms of it has been set up by your limited company, so SAS is a pension of the company. The other added advantage you can have is you can have more than one member inside SAS. You can have up to 11 members inside SAS. So this is particularly helpful if you are looking to buy commercial property because you might find that you on your own don't have sufficient funds in pension, or you can't actually get enough contributions into pension to buy the commercial property that you want to acquire. Therefore, if you bring your spouse, children potentially, or other business partners into the SAS, and obviously we can discuss this with you in a lot more detail and help you plan it out, but basically the SAS can act as a pooled fund. Or if you have a company where you have a number of directors and perhaps you don't want everybody in the same SAS, there's nothing to stop the company setting up 2 or 3 SAS. In theory, if you had 3 directors, you could set up 3 SASs. If you then all want to work together with your SASs to buy commercial property, you can. So they can individually still work as a pooled vehicle. So we've done this on many occasions for a number of clients where they've set up separate SASs for the individual directors because they will obviously have different long-term aims and goals in terms of what they want to get out of the pension, but there is nothing to stop them working together to buy that commercial property. So it allows for pooled funds and potentially also, of course, with increased value, allows for increased leverage. Don't forget, SAS can borrow money. It can borrow up to 50% of the net scheme assets that are held inside pension. That is also true of SIPP, but again, you'd need to check with the SIPP manager to make sure that they're happy borrowing funds. A lot aren't, unfortunately, these days. So again, with SAS, I think you've got a straight in. It's a great product. It's incredibly flexible. And the range of investment choices in SAS I'd have to say is much wider than SIPP these days. So you will have access to a greater range of investments to help build and plan your retirement and make the most out of your pension funds. We'd love to hear from you. Do you have a SIPP? Does that SIPP allow you to do all the things that you want to do? And how is your SIPP provider performing? Do they give you the flexibility that you actually require? Please leave us a comment below.
Book a call with us via the link in the description below. If on a mobile device, simply hit the More button under the video title and pick a convenient time to speak. Feel free to share this video with others that may benefit on WhatsApp or in other online groups or channels. Like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for lots more SSAS related content, and leave a comment if you found this video helpful. For more, visit onecrownpensions.com.